Hi, welcome to the Phil Carew Show. We're going to have Silvio Simac. Silvio.
Can you see me?
Not yet.
You can't see me. You can hear me, obviously. One second. Let me figure it out. Okay, no video starting up. Is this good?
Hey, there fantastic. We go. Thank you very much. Welcome to the Phil Carew Show, Silvio Simac.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. How's your day coming along?
It's amazing. You know, also an honor, just to let everyone know, just also inform you, this is sort of pre-recorded, but regardless if it's pre-recorded or live, you know, it's also an honor for me to be able to interview you. Thank you very much for coming on to the Phil Carew Show.
Thank you. That's cool. That's cool. Thank you.
Firstly, how did you get into martial arts? You know, was it an early age, or was it sort of like you did discover it? How did you get into it?
Very, very good question. You know, I get this question asked a lot of times, as you can imagine, and I think I always search to give a very authentic answer, but always kind of deliver it in a different way. But naturally, I was very much inspired by Bruce Lee. Growing up in 1970s, Bruce Lee made such a big impact worldwide on the silver screen, not only with his skill, but his physique, his physical attributes, the way he looked, the way he moved was really inspiring to a small child. And naturally, I was very much taken back by Bruce Lee. And Bruce Lee was very much philosophical. He encompassed the yin and yang, the two composing forces of the universe, two complementary forces of the universe, which obviously as a child I did not understand what he meant by it. But I think 30 odd years later, I'm quite compliant to understand what he meant by those philosophies. So naturally, the physical attributes that Bruce Lee introduced us to were very appealing to a small child and very inspirational. So I first of all was inspired by Bruce Lee. I took up martial arts when I was 12 years old, and my first martial art was Taekwondo. But what prompted me to take up martial arts is I was being attacked in the street with my brother. I didn't get beaten up. My brother got beaten up, being older than me. And we decided we're going to do something about future attackers. So we took up martial arts and naturally fell in love with it.
Oh, fantastic. That's your brother as well. Did he apply anything of that from when you took martial arts? Does he do the same style? Did he take up Taekwondo himself?
Yes, he did. He took up Taekwondo. He went all the way up to 3rd degree black belt in Taekwondo. But then he emigrated, committed to family. He gave up on that long life passion or hobby that he had from a childhood. I'm not sure. I don't know. He doesn't practice it anymore. He used to teach martial arts as a hobby. He's got his own career. So he's out of it now. He's out of it now.
Okay. How did it feel when the first time you got discovered? Did you get discovered, or did you go into sort of an agency that you found into applying your martial arts, your passion into acting?
I think first of all, I was discovered or noticed on the competitive circuit. I was very, very competitive. I remember one year I did 12 competitions in 1 year, and 6 of them were international, so half and half. So I was very, very competitive, very much enjoyed the training and watching myself make progress and develop. I took up lots of different martial arts so I could mix the disciplines and systems to make myself a more complete fighter. But on a competitive circuit, that's where I first was noticed because I was winning all the British Championships, Europeans, eventually the World Gold Medal in Argentina, 99. So on a competitive circuit, I was very much noticed. My weight training or bodybuilding came along the same time as martial arts. As I said to you previously, I was very much inspired by Bruce Lee, so I wanted to develop my physique and those physical attributes at the same time alongside my martial arts training. But competitive circuit was the first place where I got noticed. I was sponsored by lots of different companies, supplement companies, martial arts clothing companies, equipment companies. Then these adverts started appearing in magazines as well as television, and kind of naturally progressed from there. I was invited to do some TV shows, quiz shows, And naturally, I started doing more stuff within the media. I think media is a lot more present now with so many different social platforms than it was back then. But I was getting loads and loads of work, from TV commercials to TV shows to quiz shows, all kinds of different things. So my natural progression was the movies.
Well, fantastic. How did it feel? Did you have any sort of feeling of sense of feeling of, like, I know a lot of people, they say like the confidence, but it's more of like, there must be a time when you were nervous, you know, when you meet certain people and you don't really know them, like, in first hand. For example, you get other people, they're human, just like ourselves. Other people out there in the audience, sometimes they don't realize that you're there to do a job, you know, and you're there to apply that performance and that end result to entertain and thrill and give them, you know, great performance. So you know, you put yourself, your blood, sweat and tears, and you meet somebody like yourself, and even other people like Jet Li. You know, how was it like working with himself? Because I know you was in Unleashed.
Right. Well, naturally, you are going to feel nervous, because, you know, you're in awe of these people. Most of these people would have been my idols and some of the peers that I stood on their shoulders. So these people have inspired me, motivated me to take up martial arts. So it was surreal for me to be in the films alongside them. But it's same as every situation. I think those emotions that we experience, emotions of fear, we can turn them in our favor. Because when I go to competition, people used to say to me, "Do you still get nervous after 15 years of competing?" I said, "Of course I get nervous. I get nervous every time." But it's a good thing, because over time you learn to use those nerves to your advantage, because they're like a turbocharger in the car. You've got turbo engine in the car, so you're going to go a lot faster. Yeah, of course they do. I mean, fear does keep you on your toes. Don't let it take over your life completely, so you become paralyzed. But yeah, of course, you know, being in the presence of Keanu Reeves and Jet Li has been a phenomenal experience. Obviously, looking up to them and being quite nervous in the field. You know, I'm in the circle of someone who's an A-lister, someone who's done so many different jobs, and you always feel, "Oh, am I going to mess up? Am I going to make a mistake?" But it's all a process. It's all a process. Like you said, they're human beings. They've got emotions too. They've got their own issues and fears themselves. So that's the way you've got to put yourself in front of them as.
Yeah, this is why I appreciate you coming onto the show, Silvio, because I've explained this to other people I've spoken to before yourself, and even sort of close friends and some members of the family. We've also got to remember, I feel privileged being in your presence, but I think it's more of, you know, I felt nervous even starting to do these podcasts and even doing these interviews, because I think we tend to forget that being the person, that the interviewee and even the interviewer, we are both human, and we've got our own things that we need to do. You know, we're applying all these different things. You know, it's a gift that we have. You know, like you're being able to apply your gifts and your job, and even part of it is your passion. You know, what you're doing, and you're applying that and you're giving that to the world. But I think sometimes people get sidetracked. You know, where they get overwhelmed and they get starstruck, and all of a sudden they go, "Oh my goodness, look!" You know.
You know, one thing within martial arts, you're probably familiar with it. We have this sign where you greet someone like this. Yes. And in Chinese, that means "I'm here to serve you. I'm your servant." And when you really think about all the occupations and professions we have around the world, we are here to serve each other. Any job, any occupation. There is no job that you think is better than the other one, because at the end of the day, we all serving each other in some shape or form. And as a martial artist, this is something I've realized over the years, is through life, we are seeking to find or discover who we are. We try to reinvent ourselves or find who we are. But the only way we find ourselves is when we lose ourselves in the service of others.
Yes.
When we lose ourselves in the service of others, that's when you find yourself. And there's something that teaching martial arts has taught me, as well as when I had my son, is you find yourself when you lose yourself in the service of other people.
You know, it's brilliant, because, you know, it's nothing worth where known better that, you know, you've got a service to others, you know, in different ways, you know, and even having that. I remember when I had my first son as well. You know, there's something inside yourself that you can't always explain into words, but that feeling where it changes you, you know, it makes you realize, you think, wow, it's not just me anymore. You know, I'm here for my child. You know, it's amazing feeling.
I think for the first time when you become a parent, you discover unconditional love. And I think what you thought of unconditional love previously, you think, no, you only discover it for the first time when you become a parent, naturally. But if you could implement the same ways with all humanity and other people, we would live in a very peaceful world and society.
You know, I totally believe that. You know, I agree with that. I appreciate that as well. One other thing as well, because obviously this is unedited and this is sort of off the cuff. This is also relaxed as well and nothing intrusive. What would you have as a superpower, and why would you have it, and what would you use it for? That's what I'd like to ask you.
I think I always tend to give the same answer. That would be flying, and probably Superman, having been my favorite superhero since I was a child. That's going to be the most obvious answer. Why flying? Wow, I think most humans would be fascinated with flight. I could get to places very easily from A to B very quickly and easily. What would I use it for? I'm sure I would use it to help people out in some shape or form, just like Superman was helping people out in some shape or form. But I think we all have a duty, if we have some kind of power, some kind of gift, to share it with others, as we do. If you're an artist or musician or an actor, you share what you have with other people, because that desire is inside you to share with others. We are social creatures anyhow. So whether you share it on social media or in person with others, we have tendency to share it with others, our experiences and our knowledge and our wisdom.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. You know, I'm happy with that. The other thing is, if there was anybody, or actually you can have two choices, actually, in fact, two people that are either dead or alive. It can be historical or it can be present. And what would you do in terms of, like, what would you ask them? What would you say to them? And where would you go for dinner with them?
Wow, I'm liking these questions because I've never been asked these questions like this anyway. How many people? Two people or one person?
Two. You can have a choice of two people.
Oh, wow. Well, one would probably be Nikola Tesla. I think he's a very fascinating, interesting person. Devoted his life, and most of the stuff that we see around the household now, electrical and stuff, he invented. So I would love to meet Nikola Tesla. I'm sure I've got lots of questions to ask him, maybe about quantum physics or whatever it might be.
Brilliant.
And the other person would probably my childhood. I was a big fan of Michael Jackson. So I think if I went to his concert once, I was very lucky to have gone to a Wembley Stadium concert in 1992. So the two people, probably Michael Jackson and Nikola Tesla. Where would I go for dinner? Wow, very good question. I think I'm a big fan of I enjoy cooking when I have time to cook. So I'll probably cook something myself, because it's much more of a personal experience when you cook yourself.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. What's your favorite dish?
My favorite dish? Oh, wow. I've got quite a few favorite dishes. I like langoustines, which are like king prawns.
Yes.
In a tomato sauce with cognac.
Yes.
Quite other bits and pieces with white wine. It's really nice. But I've got quite a few favorite dishes. I love Indian food. I'm a big fan of Indian food and Chinese, Thai food.
Have you tried Filipino food? Have you tried bullet?
Yes, I have tried Filipino food. I'm not sure what dishes. I could not recall their names, but I have tried Filipino food. Love it. I love all Asian food. It's very, very elaborate. Lots of nice fresh spices, nice aromas.
I'll have to send you over. I'll personally myself, I could cook it for you, send it over to you one day and cook you a chicken adobo. Okay.
Although I've got to say, I do like very spicy food, generally from south of India or Sri Lanka. Even Sri Lankan food is very, very spicy. Yeah. I love it. And they've got lots of seafood and stuff. So I quite like it spicy.
I like some spice as well. I don't know why, for some reason, my taste buds has changed over time. It's gone from sweet to savory, and maybe it's just a clash between the two that I've had. And for some reason, I like more savory food now. Maybe it's just like those taste buds, you know, they do change. They say that over time, when you've tried enough foods with spice, you become more a savory person than sweet.
Okay. Right. No, I do enjoy my spicy food, and I think this pretty much sums up my personality. I like things in extreme. When I experience something, I like to experience the extremities of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's not a good thing, because sometimes you can burn yourself out. So I remember the producer once said to me, and I agree with him, he said, we've got two speeds in life. He goes 0 miles an hour or 100 miles an hour. There's no in between.
Wow.
And I know, because the beginning of this year was such a busy time for me. I was working so long and so hard. And then I took a whole month off and I went on my trips. So it's like I said, it's got 100 miles an hour or 0. It's like nothing in between. But as a martial artist, as someone who very much encompasses and practices philosophies of martial arts, I always strive for balance.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
I've sustained lots of injuries in the process of creating imbalances within my body, within my back, and a few of the injuries I've sustained. But one thing I do honor and respect is the balance, always the balance, with money and time, with money and family, with my food, with everything.
Yeah, no, I've noticed you've become a very, very family orientated man, and that's great, because it's nothing worse. It's hard to be able to get onto how do you balance things like that, because sometimes it must be really hard for past and even present tense. I know that there've been sort of times where there's been other people where I've watched them, they've gone to a position of where they've either sort of work first, or then they've got family, and then they've managed to get fortunate to have family that go around, or even vice versa, to be able to fit it in. And it must be pretty hard to be able to sort of past tense or even sort of current situations where you think, well, actually no, I need some time out, and you've chosen the time to be able to have that sense of control with being able to say, well, look, actually I have to turn certain things to a position where I'll say, well, look, I'm available, but I'm only available in these times and these dates, because it's nothing worse where you can't watch your family develop, and you can't take that time back once you've lost a few days, few weeks to a few months, and it turns into years, and you think, well, how do you make that up? And it's been great, because I've noticed you've been very good at being able to balance things where you've spent time with your wife and your children, and you do that. It's a valuable thing. How has it been for you? It must have been sort of a bit of a juggling act, being able to sort of fit in certain things.
I'm very pleased you're asking me this question. I think it's a very, very good question. And I do speak to some of my closest friends about it. It's always a struggle trying to find that balance, because naturally you're going to be pulled all different sides. Make more money, do this, do that. And I can tell you now, 9 years ago, before I settled down, had a kid, I did 58 flights in 1 year, 58 flights in 1 year. Wow. That's just over one flight a week. And it was fun. It was exciting. I was going to all the premieres and shows and film sets and everything. But when my child came along, when I settled, I realized the most important thing in my life was family. And I did not want to compromise my family for money. And then I thought to myself, I don't want to chase money that I don't need to sacrifice my family in the process. It's crazy. And I think my father has probably influenced me more than anyone else in that process, because my father was very much like that, family orientated. And he had opportunities, and he made his money, he had good business and stuff, but I knew exactly where to draw the line. Draw the line, this is my family time. And I've got to say, I've become very good in that way. Someone phoned me up yesterday regarding some kind of business proposition. And I said, I'm finishing at 7:30, because I was teaching martial arts classes last night. And 7:30 p.m. She said to me, can I call you at 7:45 or something? I said, no, I'll switch my phone on at 7:30 and I give my time to my family. I don't want to be dragging it on for further 20 minutes or 10 minutes or even 5 minutes. So I'm very strict in that way. When it comes to Sundays, I work for 3 hours, then I switch my phone off. For the last 15 years, my house has not had a phone. I took the phone out. I've got the internet, but at least mobile phone I can switch off. My landline, I can't switch it off. I don't want people phoning me up. So in that sense, I have to say I've been good. My father, for instance, I told you, he's influenced me. He first saw me when I was 6 months old, because he had to travel the world and work hard. He was a captain of big ships, oil tankers. So he would go away for 6 months or a year at a time. So sometimes I wouldn't see him for a year. I wouldn't see my father first time I saw him as a baby, I was 6 months old. He had to do it. he had to do because he had no choice. He had to do it to sustain family and bring money home. So I don't want to do that. I want to do it for my family. I want to do things that I absolutely enjoy, but not compromise family in the process.
You know, that's great, because I think I myself I've tended to sort of notice that, you know, I used to feel that, you know, like yourself, where there'd be people saying, oh yeah, you know, there's extra work for you to do this, you know, extra work to do that, you know, would you be able to put your time in and effort to do this? And I thought, well, I was speaking to my partner, and I said, you know what, I want to spend a bit more time, quality time with yourself and the boys.
Right.
And it felt so refreshing to actually feel, you know, rather, it's no longer just my partner or myself anymore, you know,
Right.
and it's no longer even just me, because, you know, I remember I've had all the times of what I wanted to do, go out and do my own thing. And it's great, you know, waking up in the morning, and I've got two younger ones as well as my eldest. My eldest is 9 now, and oh my goodness, his head is like coming up to my shoulder now, and I can't believe it. I thought it's the way things are these days, and I think he's going to reach basketball height, you know, a basketball player height, you know, it'd be like shooting up here, and oh, goodness me. And I thought, what are we feeding him? He's coming out here. It's like, oh my
Every
goodness.
generation is getting bigger and bigger. Every generation must be the food we're making nowadays.
And the younger two, that, oh my goodness, when you put them all together with the eldest, they're like my three little ninjas, you know. And it's amazing when they're together. It's great, because I remember when I was younger, when I was looking after two of my younger cousins, and they always said to me, you've got a connection there. You've got some sort of connection and empathy and something else, you know. Number one, are you going to be a strict father? And number two, are you going to be, you know, one of those ones where you'd like to be the father where you can actually give them some guidance of like going through, you know, make sure that they make their own mistakes, but also be there at hand where you can give them the initial guidance, where you can have that sense of openness, you know, where they can be honest with you and say, look, dads, I've done this, can you help me out? You know, I thought, well, there's nothing wrong with asking. You know, always say to my eldest, I said, look, Riley, you know, if you do something and you're not sure about it, you know, always ask. You know, no one's going to be like in the Matrix where you think, or like a computer, everyone knows everything. You know, you have to be able to say, well, look, actually, I don't know. How is it done? How does it work? Pull it apart, you know, and ask questions. You know, it's nothing wrong with being like that.
This is something I always pass on to my students. We've got classes from 3 to 6 year olds, 7 to 12, as well as adults. Is don't be afraid to make mistakes, because you will make thousands of mistakes in life, and you're going to learn from those mistakes. So don't feel bad about those mistakes, because we've all made mistakes. A road to success is made up of thousands of mistakes, but you just got to pick yourself up, brush the dust off, and just keep moving forwards. And that's the mentality that I would like to instill in kids as well. To not to be discouraged when they lose, when they fall down, but to pick themselves up and be stronger to go forward.
Yeah, no, that's great as well, because you know, when you're doing that with your students, you know, what's one of your challenges in there that they've sort of encountered when they must have come to you, you know, I've noticed that even with being the openness, you know, where sometimes they feel like they'll say, oh yeah, I've done this, and then you can sense it. They give you that look, and you think, well, I've done this, and you're like, well, you know, is there a bit more, elaborate? And then when they become a bit more open about it, they realize, I think, well, actually, it's not as bad as what I thought it was. It's more of the, you feel it's more of the fear of what they feel, the peer pressure, you know, what they feel, rather than say, well, actually, thank you, I feel that was great value, you sharing that with me. You know, I feel a lot better knowing that it wasn't as bad as what I thought. Right.
No, but the thing is, fundamentally, humans are only capable of two emotions. One is love, one is fear. And we've got lots of other emotions that come from fear, that stem from fear. That's jealousy, resentment, hate, distrust, all of those things. So what we always talk to kids about is controlling two emotions. One is fear, one is anger. Well, anger comes from fear anyway, because when you're angry, when you're afraid, we say and do wrong things. Most of the time, we're afraid to even try things to to follow things through because we're afraid of failure. We're afraid of making a mistake. We're afraid of making fools of ourselves, whatever it might be. Now, I'm sure I've made lots of those mistakes previously myself. I didn't do it because I was afraid what other people might think, which I don't now. You become wiser, I think, as you get older, and you don't worry about those things.
No, it's great because like in terms of like a role model, you know, apart from your father, who else and what else inspires you? Is there anything else out there that inspires you?
I think just generally noble, clever people who have sussed out their life, in terms of creating that balance and happiness that everyone strives for. Because I think today we live in a world which is so fast-paced, and a lot of the time we're running around like headless chickens, thinking, as I did, as most of us did. Just generally people who've stood out with big messages. You know, even people like Keanu Reeves. You know, I listen to him. I've spoken to the guy. I've worked with the guy. People who are very philosophical in their approach to life, but also very basic on the ground level. Yeah.
No. Excuse me.
No. You enjoy. I've got my coffee as well. I like
brilliant.
My coffee.
That's how I like this. Relax, because maybe I should sort of add an extra title. Have a coffee with Phil.
That's right. Exactly. Have a coffee with Phil. Sounds good.
Yeah. No. In regards to that as well, where else would you like to travel, and why would you travel there? You know, if you haven't been there yet, where would you like to go?
I've been very, very lucky and fortunate to have traveled for much of the world. Some of it through competitive fighting in Taekwondo, in martial arts, and the rest of it through films. Places like North and South Korea, China, Indonesia, Thailand, Russia, USA, Argentina, all over Europe, everywhere. I've been very, very lucky in that sense. I'd love to go to Africa. I've never been to Africa, so I'd love to go to Africa, Australia, and New Zealand. So maybe these are the continents I've never visited, I've never been to. So I'd love to go to those places. Although I have to say I'm a big fan of Far East because it's very rich in culture, history, as well as food. Not too keen when it comes to Caribbean because it's too relaxing and I get bored after 3 days. I want to do some cultural things. I want to explore things and see things. After 3 days of resting, I'm like, oh, come on, I'm restless now. So I like to go places which have got a lot to offer historically and culturally, as well as food as well. So I'm a big fan of Far East. But some of the places I'd love to go is Africa, New Zealand, and Australia.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah, I'd love to go to Australia, Africa, and you know, the safari with lions.
Yeah, for sure. Goodness. Yeah, wow. For sure.
You know, I've been fortunate where there was a guy that I used to go to because part of my background as well as what I'm doing now. One of my uncles through marriage, my auntie, my mum's sister, her husband, my uncle Peter, is retired now through sort of photography, and he invited me to a camera club, and there was this guy there. He loves taking pictures of animals, and one of them happened to be a lion from a distance, where he was taking the picture of the lion, and it was almost near enough where it looked like as if it was at arm's reach. I was like, oh my goodness. How the heck did you manage that without having to be spotted and like get eaten alive by the lion? I'm like, oh my goodness.
Incredible.
He said, well, with great difficulty, and like we mentioned, the fear, and you thought, well, they said he had to keep very, very quiet. It's like behind wherever it was, just to make sure no one could see him. And it was like now, and they had to as soon as they took the picture, that was it. After they had that, he said, like, I'm happy with that after I've been there, and they had to get up as quickly as promptly as possible and then get back onto the vehicle where he was. But I thought, oh my goodness, that's very brave, and also, oh my goodness, very dangerous.
Talking of photography, that was one of my first hobbies and interests, photography, and I took it up early on in school. And back in the day, I used to develop the film, process the photographs, go through the whole process. So I thought my career was going to be shaping in that direction. Eventually, I decided to go different routes. But that was initially my biggest interest, photography.
Oh, brilliant. There you go. You got another art. You're not just a martial artist, you're a photographer, you know, art in there. That's the creative side of you see?
Well, we all like to express ourselves in a different way. That's probably because I can't sing to save my life, and I can't draw either. I can't paint. So maybe photography was that side of me, which I could be a bit artistic, because I can't draw or sing. So
Oh, bless you. That's a point. We're not singing. Have you noticed that I know, as myself as being a Filipino, that even Asian culture, they like to sing on the karaoke. They have to have if you don't know anyone that hasn't got a karaoke, like myself, you know, whether they're Chinese, Korean, Filipino, or even sort of Americans, and even some other people in other cultures, where they, you know, I find it fascinating where they can gather people around to entertain each other with a microphone. No matter how bad or good they are, you can always have a bit of a laugh, entertaining each other through that.
I think singing is probably one of the best ways to raise your vibrational frequency as a human being. We are vibrational beings.
Yes.
So singing, I think, is probably the best way to raise that vibration and feel good about yourself and the world. Absolutely. I think it's a great thing that, and I've noticed in Far East, in China, as well as Thailand, the karaoke bars everywhere. So I know it's very big in the culture. I think it's great. I used to have karaoke at home. I think it's a great way, especially if you've got friends around. Great way to create a lovely atmosphere at home.
Oh yeah. Do you one of the other things that I'd like to ask you? Can you do accents? And what's your favorite accent, if you can actually do one?
I can do not on the spot, but yes, I've done Russian accents many times. US accents maybe a couple of times in the movies, but funny enough, it's been mainly Russian. I had an Indian accent once. Indian, Russian, and US.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's great, because
But
you know,
Indian accent I can generally do quite easy, because most of my closest friends are Indian.
yes.
So generally I can do the Indian quite easy.
Have you often, like sometimes without realizing I've mimicked, because of myself, I've got a British accent, but I've mimicked a few people like myself, like my mum, my auntie, and certain people, family, friends. And now it's pretty funny because a few people have done it to me, and they're on the phone. I didn't know who was on the phone. And I thought, right, okay, I'll go on the phone. And then this, by the way, this is somebody's mum or somebody's aunt. I was like, oh, and then they laughed. They said, a good impression. Well done. You pulled it off. I was like, wow. I was like, whoo. I was
Brilliant.
like, oh my goodness.
Brilliant.
It was like one of those moments you're like, oh my God, and oh, am I going to get into trouble? And then all of a sudden they said, actually, Phil, you pulled it off. That was pretty funny. I can't believe you actually had the guts to do that, you know, and do it. It's a bit of a laugh.
Yeah.
Would you say, in terms of other than acting, what is your passion apart from martial arts? Is there any outside passion or hobby that you have?
Some of the hobbies over the years have kind of subsided, died away. Not so much because I lost interest. You just had no time for it, really. I enjoy my cooking when I can. When I've got time to cook, I love cooking. When I prep up, take my time with it. I enjoy reading. I enjoy collecting. I've been collecting weapons my whole life, just general weapons. Wow. Although I'm not great at using them, just for display. So every country I travel to, I like to take a traditional weapon from that country, generally swords. They're all stored away now because since my son was born, I had to put them all away. So none of them on display. I think I've got one display which he can't reach. It's a bit too far for him. But yeah, I enjoy my reading. I enjoy travel. I've traveled extensively. This year I've maybe been to 4 or 5 countries. So yeah, apart from cooking, reading, traveling.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
What's the most funniest and weirdest thing a fan has ever done?
Oh, weirdest. I've had lots and lots of strange things, lots and lots. God, let me just think. I had a stalker once. Wow. Which was a bit scary, to be honest with you. And I went to Germany, to Dusseldorf, for a Comic-Con.
Oh yes, Comic-Con, yes.
And this was a bit scary. I mean, this lady was so twisted. She said that one day me and her will end up together. And I said to her, we're not. I have a partner. I love my partner. I mean, I'm very much in love with her. She said, no. We're destined to end up together. We will end up And she started attacking my partner on her social media and everything for no reason whatsoever. And this lady lived in Dusseldorf. And I remember security guard said, somebody wants to take a photograph with you. And I thought this lady was going to be there. Lucky it wasn't. This went on for months and months and months. She became dangerously aggressive the way she was towards me, just going completely mad. It was a bit scary experience because I thought, I don't know what she's capable of doing, if she's capable of coming to the Comic-Con or... Yeah, it was very, very strange. Very strange.
How do you feel in terms of like, what does your wife and sort of family feel in terms of, because obviously, you know, there'll be times when both of you together, you know, you're promoting things, not as well as yourself, you know, because you've got like, I've noticed you've got like apparel that you promote, you know, for certain brands that you can be together, or you've got some things together where there's a whole as a family. How do they feel in terms of like, they must be very supportive of you, because obviously, you know, you're not just any ordinary actor sort of, and even doing stunts, you know, there's been well-known sort of films that you've been involved in and other events that you've obviously been attended to, you know, how is that, you know, in terms with them, you know, because, you know, you must feel like there must be some form of protection. Sometimes you think, well, look, I don't want you to get involved in certain things, but maybe they probably feel like, look, you've got nothing to worry about. We're here for you. We'll support you, and we'll always be here. You know, if you need us, you know, there's nothing better knowing that. It's so refreshing knowing that you've got a supportive family.
The most important thing, and I totally agree with what you're saying. Totally agree. I'm glad you're asking that good question again. Once again, my wife is 100% supportive. She manages the school. She manages all of my businesses. She travels to all the seminars. That's what her full-time job is. She manages everything that I'm doing. So we're in a very, very lucky position, a situation where we literally need each other in so many different ways. And she does a wonderful job. She's my best friend too. And I trust her 100%. I have to, you know, for everything that she does for me. So very, very lucky in that way. My son, same thing. He's 7.5 now. He's red belts in Taekwondo. So he's getting ready for deputy black belt soon. He's been training for the last 5 years. He's not quite black belt yet, but having that support means the world to me. They're there in every single class that we are there. We've got other instructors teaching other classes, but the classes where I am at, they're always there, always supportive, always signing people up. So very, very, very lucky. I much prefer this kind of setup than if we live separate lives or separate careers. Good thing is we've got same vision, same dream, and we're supporting each other along the way. And it's so much more fun that way.
Yeah, no, I suppose, you know, when it comes to all the things that you've been doing, you know, and you've got, you know, sometimes it must be hard, you know, where you've been in a position where your son and even your wife, you know, past tense, even before they got more and more involved in what you're doing, you're like, oh my goodness, look at Dad, you know, like, you know, what he's doing, you know, people, because they've got that attachment to you as well. It's no longer just you, it's them as well now, you know. Other people don't realize that, okay, they may know you, but, you know, it affects your family too, you know. And then when it's so great having that understanding from, you know, from all areas, from all sides, and you're all in unison supporting each other, you know, whereas, you know, you get points where you're like, oh, you know, I'm doing this, they're doing that. And then when you've got that, it makes things a whole lot easier, you know, for everyone. You know, it's all an even keel, it's relaxed. You don't have to feel like, oh my goodness, when am I going to spend time with my wife? When am I going to spend time with my son? You know, when are you going to do this? And, you know, there must be a time where you just think, you know what? No, I'm not going to do that. Like you said, turn your phone off. I've had to do, you know, that as well. You know, there'll be times when people want to have your time, and then most people, when they know you as who you are, they value that. They think, well, look, they're not answering, they're spending time with their family, and that's what you should be doing, you know. And
you have to be very, very strict, otherwise your time will be taken up and wasted on pointless things. And I'll give you one example. I'm very good friends with Scott Adkins, and I remember our mutual friend Roger Payne, who's from judo, Olympic judo background. He came to a martial arts show to meet Scott and just offer him, would you like to come to Greece to do a seminar? And I went, well, Scott went 1 year, then I went the following year, Then the year after, both of us went together to do a seminar.
Wow.
And I remember Roger Payne said to me, when he said to Scott, he likes to talk to him, he said, you've got 10 minutes. That's what you got. Give me a spiel for 10 minutes. And that's it. That's all he could afford to give him time for. And you have to be strict in that way, in the sense, I've got my next appointment. Unfortunately, life in London is the same like that nowadays, because my day's made up of lots of little schedules, lots of little schedules.
Yeah.
So sometimes I bump into someone, I'm talking to them, but I'm looking at watch like, I've got to be somewhere else, otherwise I'm going to miss the appointment. Yeah. And sometimes I dislike it because it becomes very impersonal. You don't have that time to connect with people. But you do, literally. It's like, I'm sorry, I can't waste any time. But yes, many times I've had to turn things down because it was not a necessary part of my life. And there was something probably more important that I wanted to do, i.e. family, which is always number one.
You know, that's brilliant, because like I on the next interview that I've got today, because this is obviously unedited, I really value people that I'm actually so much in being able to come onto the show, because all I've wanted to do is be able to share the wealth of information and experiences with other people where it hasn't filtered through. Because unfortunately, sometimes certain parts of media, there's a lot of people where they'll go, look, the show is about me. No, it isn't. What I'm actually doing is I'm actually sharing other people's experiences. Yes, it's my show, but it's not as well as just being my show. It's also your show. You know, like you're on my show now, but that doesn't mean, you know, it's solely, oh yeah, you got a show, Phil Carew Show. But what they don't realize is until when they actually see this and listen to what we're talking about, they realize, it might be like a light bulb moment. They think,
sure,
it's not about the Phil Carew Show or the Phil Carew. It's actually the other person on the other side is interviewing, you know. And
I'm glad the way it's flowing. I'm glad the way the interview is flowing, kind of not natural from one point to the other, or next topic to the next one.
You know, I appreciate that the fluidity in it. It's natural. It's not forced. You're not trying to think of what the next sort of question and there to do, and it's not intrusive, because I respect your time, and you know, and your values are very similar to mine. You know, and that's what I appreciate doing these interviews. And you know, I just hope to sort of share with the world out there. And when I sort of express this with Spotify and Instagram and also YouTube, and as well as the lives, and you know, sometimes, you know, you don't always get the perfect things on there. I've had one interview where I had the blank screen, and it was only like a mystery. The actress at the time that I was speaking to, it was Rebecca Grant. There was a lady, British actress there. She made me laugh. She had the headphones on, and she said to me, Phil, I can't. Hello, are you there? Can I see you? And it was like similar to when we began, you know, and all she could see is silhouette. And then last 5 minutes when I clicked on, I said, I'll raise my hands up. Hey! And she laughed. She goes, that's what that man looks like behind all of that, behind that voice, you know, and now I can see him. And, you know, I look forward to doing more of these, Silvio, and I appreciate your time.
It's all right, no problem. I think it's good what you're doing. What I wanted to say, it's really good you're doing this and you're connecting with other people. And it's great that we live in day and age where we can connect with people via the social media, telephones, and all other forms of medium, which is what we couldn't do 10 years ago. And this is what something I recall from Bruce Lee said, be like water, my friend. Water has got no shape, no shape, no color, but you can adapt to any shape. So we need to adapt. As the environment changes, we need to adapt. And I think the biggest example is last couple of years. We've seen so many changes, from Brexit to pandemic to war in Ukraine. We're seeing lots of changes. So when changes in the environment occur, we need to change ourselves to adapt to the environment, because if we don't change, we're going to perish. And this is something I noticed when we had lockdown, for the last 2 years. All martial arts school closed down. Yeah. So I thought to myself, what are we going to do now? The next day, straight to us, I said, we have to do what everyone else did and go online.
Yes.
Some of my friends said, no, I'm not going to do it. It's not going to work. It's never worked. I was teaching 150 students, 200 every week online.
Wow.
They would log on. Yeah. I'm glad that, because, you know, I would have perished. If I didn't adapt to the changing environment. Look at Blockbuster Video. Blockbuster Video in every high street for decades.
Yes.
they didn't adapt to the changing world or environment. So what happened to them? They disappeared, they perished. And I think we can learn a lot from that. Is we need to, as things are changing around us, we need to change ourselves, because if we don't, we'll cease to exist. That's the same thing with the entire planet Earth and universe we live in. It needs to adapt to the changing environment.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And you know, this is how much I appreciate doing these shows. And one other thing as well, before I forget, and it's been a great thing, is that how long has it been since you last communicated with Don the Dragon Wilson? Because I'll be hoping to have him on the show as well soon. You know, he's a very busy man like yourself. I know you've got some close connection to himself, as well as I would like to have Scott Adkins when the time is right. You know, I'm sure he'll probably be able to see this one day.
It was Don's birthday recently, so I reached out to him to wish him happy birthday. I think only a couple of weeks ago. Before pandemic, we used to see each other at least 4 or 5 times a year at various events around the world. The Atlantic City was a January event, martial arts show in UK, Comic Cons in Germany. So I would see him along the path every year. But I've met him many years ago. And let me tell you, when he comes on your show, it's going to be a 3-hour interview. He likes to talk. He's got lots of great stories. He loves to talk.
You know what? I'll be looking forward to it, because you know, I've got a confession to make on that as well. I'd love to as well. So I think it'd be like another story. It'd be great to have both of you on there. You know, if you like, it'll be welcome to having that one day when there'll be a group of you asking me questions one day. It might be that way.
If you like talking, you're gonna have a problem, because you're not gonna get a chance to talk.
I make my match, Silvio.
You can't have 2 people wanting to talk, you know.
I'm going to meet my match, so I'll appreciate that.
Yeah, he's a lovely guy. He's a wonderful guy. He's got so many stories, and it's a pleasure listening to his stories, because most of them are awe-inspiring stories. So I'm sure you'll have lots of fun interviewing Don the Dragon.
With Scott Adkins in there, how did you come about? Was it through film, or was it through seminars, or was you through something like? Do you remember there was something convention called SENI?
Yes, of course. Yeah. That was organized by Paul Clifton. Yeah, Paul Clifton. No. We met in 2001 on sets of Black Mask 2 in Thailand.
Oh wow.
Scott plays the lead villain, Dr. Lang, and I play his sidekick in the film. And we were the only 2 guys from UK on the film set. Everybody else was American.
Goodness.
Yeah, Black Mask 2. So we spent 3 months in Bangkok and Chiang Mai. That's how we first met. And we became very close friends. He was living in Birmingham at the time, but he moved to London. And he was in London for a while because it was closer to auditions. We trained together. We did loads of seminars. I remember doing Bruce Lee's birthday celebration, one of the cinemas. We did a show, and then we pulled each other on film. So we did 6 productions so far together. That's films and TV shows, and went on from there.
Oh, brilliant! And there'll be one last question I like to ask.
Sure.
Have you ever met, because I know obviously maybe on passing or even doing some work with them, Bruce Lee's daughter? Have you Shannon Lee?
I have. I've had a lovely privilege to meet her, and I was telling my wife the other day, one thing I do regret is I've got a few of those photo regrets. I never developed my advanced film of photographs with her. So I don't even think I've got a shred of evidence. I spent a whole week with her in China. I went to China for Cultural Forum. This was many years ago. And China was celebrating how they exported their culture through martial arts or kung fu films.
Yes.
And she was still receiving an award on behalf of Bruce Lee for his contribution for exporting Chinese culture to the rest of the world through the movies. And Shannon Lee's ex-husband, Ian, was attending the events. And I remember sitting on a coach. We got picked up from Beijing, driven around China to see lots of beautiful places around China, around Beijing. And she was sitting across on the coach, and she leant over to shake my hand. She said, "Shannon." And I went, "Silvio." And I was in such awe. We spoke about this beginning of the interview. Were you ever nervous?
Yes.
My jaw just dropped. I picked up my phone straight to a friend of my brother just to tell him, guess who I just met? It was unbelievable. It was amazing. I'll be honest with you. One thing I did not want to do, she told me a lot of things about Bruce Lee. I mean, she was wearing a necklace that Bruce Lee gave her.
Yes.
I did not want to ask her too many questions about Bruce Lee because I'm sure she gets a lot of it a lot of the time.
Yeah, of course.
I asked her some questions, but I get the impression people don't ask about her, what she's like. People always ask her father. And I thought, I'm not gonna bother doing too much of that because I'm sure she gets a lot of it anyway. So I was more interested in what she was up to and what she was doing as opposed to Bruce Lee. Although she told me some very interesting stories because we spent a whole week in China doing this cultural forum.
Wow. Yeah, I'd love to. You know, I said to my partner, Meg, that I said it'd be honor. You know, I'm getting closer and closer to get into a position where I have the passion of being able to connect in like I am with yourself. And, you know, it'd be great to be able to have an interview with Don the Dragon Wilson, Jet Li, Jackie Chan, Shannon herself, you know, Shannon Lee herself, and be able to even go to Seattle where Bruce Lee and Brendan are there. And, you know, it'd be like one of these, it'd be very emotional for me because I remember when I was the age of 6, I got bullied myself, like you mentioned, you know, with your brother and yourself. And I remember when I walked into this dojo, and this was in Witham, Essex, probably about 20 minutes away from where I am now in Chelmsford. I remember my mum said to me, go on, go in there, have a look. I looked up and there was this massive canvas. It was like, it wasn't a landscape, it was more like portrait, sort of this side up to here. And it was Bruce Lee doing the Enter the Dragon stance with the dragon going through in and around him. And he was doing the stance, the dragon stance. And I thought, oh my goodness. And so it was very similar to me. I was doing something at the time called Aikijitsu. We were all wearing like blue gis and things like that. And I remember the first time someone mentioned to me when I had the basin haircut, you know, the typical basin haircut that Bruce Lee had in one of his films with Jason Scott Lee in it, you know, when he was doing the dragon story. And I remember I was probably about 6 to 8 years old, and my sensei said to me, he said, crikey, are you going to get a haircut? Because look at my hair. My hair was like, it was like that, like a cap. And it was so hilarious, you know, and it was like a memory for me. So I can relate with the Bruce Lee. You
just mentioned the dragon story with Jason Scott Lee.
Yes.
It was actually Shannon Lee who pointed it out to me, which I didn't know before that she's in the film herself.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't know that either.
I didn't play the piano. Yeah, I didn't know myself. Yeah, she told me, it was like, are you? It was a very, very small cameo appearance. I didn't even know.
I was so shocked because I had to rewind on the DVD. I looked back and I paused it and I was like, wow, yes, it's Shannon there. And I was like, my goodness, she's actually in the film. I thought, that's amazing. You know, it's amazing, isn't it, when they mention it, when they say that they're partaking.
I know, and I've watched it like 3 times. I've not seen you, so I have to watch.
You'd have to do like a circle.
Right, exactly.
Spot the difference. Where am I? Am I here or am I there? Do you recognize who I am? What do I look like? What am I wearing? Yeah, Silvio. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
I would always like to thank all of my guests and even like yourself. Always an honor to have anybody that comes onto the Phil Carew Show, and it's also given me great value of what I'm taking away of what I've heard from what you're saying as well. And hopefully, you know, there'll be some other people there that will not just also be inspired, but taking some information of what we're actually talking about. Because I think sometimes people forget this isn't just about myself. It's about other people and sharing their wealth of knowledge and experience, because you never know who it will go to, you know, and some people there, you know, of all ages, like, oh, I didn't know, I wasn't aware of that. And it's good to share that there's different sides of yourself, you know, rather than where other people go, well, this is what Silvio does on the set. Yes, he's human, he's a father, he's a husband, and he's a man, just like other men, and he's human, you know, and that's a great thing about it. It makes you people feel a bit more, you know, intact with knowing that, wow, you know, this guy is just like us.
We have, as humans, we've evolved because of our ability to communicate with each other, unlike most of the other animal species. So I'll say I encourage communication. Keep connecting, keep communicating.
Thank you very much, Silvio. You know, and this, I'll never forget this, you know, folks, you know, these are one of the things that that doesn't come along, you know, it's like once in a lifetime. Sometimes, you know, it's all about also not being scared to ask. You know, I noticed this with you, Silvio, you know, with some people, they'll say, oh, I don't know, oh, shall I ask? Well, you're not going to know if you don't ask. The only worst thing you can get is no.
Of course. Keep drilling, keep doing it. No fear, no fear. Keep doing it.
Thank you very much, Silvio. And thank you very much, everyone.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much. And everyone, you know, stay tuned. This will be available on Spotify, Instagram, and also YouTube. So I'll let you know when I launch this as well on Facebook, if that's okay, Silvio. It's just a permission for yourself. Thank you very much.
All right.
Take care.
All the best.
Have a good day. And speak to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.